I came to watch over you. Yeah, let's do that one. I came to watch over you, I answered. Watch over me, why? Because I thought you'd definitely show up at this hour. I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When she turned around, she had 2 glasses in her hands. Anyway, why don't you have a seat? As urged, I pulled out a chair. She made her way over to the fridge and opened the door. Don't do it! Don't do it! She took out a bottle of mineral water from inside. Sumi-san, you were lying about thirsty, weren't you? There's a fridge in your room and there should be mineral water in it. There's no need for you to drag yourself all the way to the kitchen just for a drink of water. A thin smile formed on her face as I confronted her. I ran out. There wasn't any water left. That's why I came here. Anyway, wouldn't you have a drink? She put the 2 glasses down on the table and poured water into each. Here. She placed one of the glasses in front of me. Oh yeah, I'll drink it. Sure. Drink it all in one gulp. Yep, it's the same thing as last time. I'd already completed this. This ending is all fucked up. I don't understand this ending. I do not understand it one tiny bit. Well, who the hell is the guy in the white room? Refused. Her behavior was way too suspicious. It's possible that she drugged the water. Oh, yeah, she did. While her back was turned. That's what I thought. I pushed the glass away. She furrowed her brow and tilted her head. You don't want it? Yeah, sorry. I see. With that soft whisper, she walked over to me, narrowing the distance between us. She stood in front of me, gripping her own glass tightly in both hands. Stared at the transparent liquid inside. We didn't move. Neither she nor I stirred. And an air of unease enveloped us. Beyond the darkness that separated us, I could barely hear the faint sound of her breathing. Standing there wordlessly in the dark, she resembled nothing, as so much as a malaxious spirit that she wandered free of its earthly body. I couldn't feel the slightest warmth for her, and at last, without once raising the glass to her lips, she put it back down on the table. Aren't you going to drink it? No. Why? Why do you think? She stood over me, looking down at me as I sat on the table. Is that because there's something bad in it, perhaps? That's not the reason. Then why? It wasn't water that I wanted to drink. Something like this can't quench my thirst. Ho ho! Whispered words. Couldn't read her eyes. Her eye sockets were veiled in shadow, looking blank and hollow as though her eyes had dropped, leaving only empty cavities. You know, Yukidoh-san. She extended her thin finger towards the glass. She traced its outer rim, then dipped her fingers into the liquid. She slowly tipped it towards me until it fell over. The water began to spill out. It spread across the table as if crawling. Finally, it reached the edge and ran off, dripping into the floor in a thin stream. I watched all this in silence. I was captivated by the falling drops of water, and at that instant, something stabbed the back of my neck. There was a piercing pain that momentarily dyed my vision white. A dazzling light flashed before me and shattered into pieces. Vision soon returned, however the scene my eyes beheld was slightly different from the one I just left. My line of sight was tilted at a right angle. I could feel the hard... Did she inject me with that gun? I could feel the hard floor against my cheek. I'd fallen face down onto the ground. I tried to pick myself up, but couldn't put any power into my arms or legs. It was physically impossible for me to move, but I couldn't remember how. What had just happened? My consciousness was hazy and I couldn't string my thoughts together. I wanted to look around. All I could move was my eyeballs, which I darted around frantically. I looked up and saw Itsumi standing stock still beside me. Her right hand was clutching an object that I remembered seeing before. An object shaped like a gun. An injection gun, the same one who she shot Hattori with. I won't let anyone interfere. No one can stop my plan. Plan? My prediction hit the mark. Storm came to Sphere to kill Hattori, no, Inabushi. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't get my voice to leave my throat. I was careless. Why did I ignore the signs? I felt disgusted at myself for letting my guard down for even a second. What was the point of even coming here to watch over her? Don't worry. You won't be able to move for a while, but that's all. Her voice was getting more and more distant. Little by little, my consciousness began to fade. Goodbye, Yukidoh-kun. With those parting words, she disappeared from view. I couldn't just let it go like this. I couldn't let her kill Hattori. A grand struggle against the demon lurking inside me had now begun. Struggled frantically, trying to grasp hold of my dimming consciousness. First, I tried focusing all my nerves into my fingertips. I was barely able to move my pinky. Quickly, so as to not forget the sensation, I fired off commands to my ring, middle, and index finger. Using this method like a magic spell, I turned my whole entire body back on little by little. I tirelessly continued my work. Eventually, I found myself able to move my hands up to my palms. Then the feeling returned to my arms, and gradually I regained control of my feet. Although that said, I was still unable to lift my body. I crawled over the floor, chasing after Itsumi. Damn it! The word leaked out before I could think. My vocal cords seemed to be showing signs of recovery. She probably shot me with a powerful tranquilizer. In spite of that, why could I still move like this? It could be that this specific type of tranquilizer had already been administered to me several times in the past. So my resistance to the drug was already quite high. As I pondered that, I somehow managed to reach the living area. Itsumi was standing in the door to Hattori's room. Something glinted in her right hand. I stood up, leaning unsteadily against the wall. One step at a time, I began to approach her. She hadn't noticed me yet. I moved forward with the utmost care, trying not to make a sound. If I lose focus even for a second, I'll fall over. My vision warped and swirled dizzily. The images reflected in my eyes were vague and hazy, so I wasn't sure if I was even heading in the right direction. Relying only on the feel of the wall beneath my fingers, I continued through the darkness. Finally, I drew right up beside Itsumi. Her hand was on the doorknob. Slowly, she began to turn it. And right after that, faster than the eye could see, I grabbed her wrist. Huh. Never releasing my hold, I covered her body with mine as though in an embrace. The momentum carried me to the floor, bringing her down along me, and we rolled across the floor in a tangle. I hadn't planned on it, but I ended up pinning her down. She, lying face up on the floor, and I right on top of her. She struggled below me, all my body weight pressing down against her. In her right hand was a horribly sharp knife. A kitchen knife. She'd probably pulled it out of the cupboard after I fell over in the dining hall area. I held her tightly by the wrist, refusing to let go. My body left like an old-in toy. Move! Let me go! What are you doing? No, I won't let go. As long as I'm here, I won't. I won't let anyone die. My joints creaking, I pulled away from her. Pinning her wrist with my left hand, I pulled the knife from her with my right. Then I hurled it away into the living area. With a dry sound, the kitchen knife disappeared into the darkness. Maybe it was because of the relief I felt, but as soon as I heard that noise, I was attacked by an overwhelming sense of exhaustion. I rolled powerlessly to the floor beside her. She didn't even allow me a moment of rest. She suddenly sprang onto me, grabbed me by the torso, and pulled me violently. Why are you interfering? This has nothing to do with you, so why? She shook me back and forth. I didn't even have enough strength left to fight back. I went limp, my head lolling on my shoulders like a doll's. Why doesn't anyone understand? That girl is a natural-born killer. No, she's not even a girl, she's not even human. She's a demon. If you let her live, I'll guarantee you there will be even more victims. So, why? Why does everyone always have to protect her? How can you allow a demon like her to live a carefree everyday life? Even though he was killed so horribly. I'll never forgive her. I'll kill her no matter what. Sami had finally revealed her true nature. Her calm face had been torn away, replaced with that of a demon. Her long silver hair was disheveled, her pupils abnormally wide. A pattern of hives had begun to mar her brown skin. Livid veins spread cracks across her face, shrouding it until she looked no different than a corpse. The only things visible there were the warped features of a cruel, murderous monster, all human blood frozen and immobile in her veins, as if Itsumi had summoned a demon to claim Hattori, but found herself possessed instead. The way she looked, you could almost believe she was playing the part of a villainous and tragic melodrama, but the murderous aura she now emanated was no different from that of a mental patient, capable of flying into a killing rage at any moment. A hatred and a grudge this strong could also almost certainly be considered an illness to which over time an ordinary human being might succumb. And if that was true, Asami was most likely attempting to expel the sickness from her body by killing Hattori. How was that any different from what Hattori had done during the Arizumi incident? There wasn't even a fragment of anything like a great ideal here. You could even say she was driven only by the mad brutality festering inside her. I pitied her. Her condition didn't inspire even the slightest feeling of anger or hatred within me. Only a deep, deep sadness. Jesting. I hadn't seen Natsumi once since she had shut herself in a room and wouldn't come out. The door was firmly locked from the inside. Tori continued about her daily routine with no apparent changes. She seemed to be completely oblivious to the fact that Natsumi was out to kill her. Tori was currently playing with Uni in a corner of the living area. From time to time, she would smile brilliantly as they played. "Oh, so close to 21, huh? If you'd only picked the one right next to it, it would have been a double matching point." And the more I saw how calm she was, the deeper my mind sank into depression. Behind me, right on the other side of a single thin wall, the personifications of madness itself was hiding. Even now, she might be waiting for a chance to slaughter Hattori. If I could simply feel hatred or anger towards Natsumi right now, it would be much simpler. With justice as my shield, I could stand against her. But I don't. I understood Natsumi's feelings. The feelings of a mother deprived of her own child. I couldn't blame her, I couldn't scorn her. Compassion and pity truly are awe-inspiring, I thought. I couldn't do anything for them, for Natsumi or for Hattori. All I could do was protect Hattori and try to make precautions, if case Natsumi snapped. What drove me was neither a sense of duty nor of justice, but simply my own clumsy instinct. I headed to the kitchen and downed a glass of water. I hadn't slept a wink last night, now drowsiness was advancing upon me. I'd really wanted a cup of coffee, but I remembered the inhibitor and changed my mind. Of course, I wouldn't very well go nap in my room. I had to guard Hattori. If I took my eyes off her for even a second, Natsumi might use the opportunity to rush out of her room. But then Uni was right there beside her, and even with the way she was right now, I don't think Natsumi would lay a hand on him, but just in case, I decided to let Uni know. "Hey, Uni, got a moment?" Called out to him as I headed into the living area. "Not now, we're in the middle of a showdown." I guess he's talking about his game with Hattori. I immediately understood what they were playing. A game where the player writes numbers from 1 to 25 in a 5 to 5 square, then takes turns calling out a number and painting on the squares. Kind of bingo commonly called 25. Sphere is the kind of environment where nothing to do, so the only thing you can do is kill time with these primitive games. Then 18. 18, you sure about that? Well, then 21. You already said 21. Who did? You did. I did not say 21, you liar. Hey, Uni. Hey, Uni, come on. It won't take long. Shoes, you're annoying. Sorry, Tori, will you give me a moment? Uni set down the pencil and paper he'd been holding and ran over to me. What? Hey, Uni, sorry it's so sudden, but I want to ask you a favor. A favor? Yeah, whatever happens, please keep an eye on Hattori and Natsumi-san for a while. Oh, what's that? Because I say so. Anyway, don't leave Hattori alone with Natsumi-san. Are Hattori and Kali having a fight? Well, you could say that, so please, I'm counting on you. Oh, I don't really get it, but okay, I just have to keep an eye on them, right? Thanks a lot. Is that it? Yeah. So can I go back now? Sure, but don't forget what I just said, okay? Got it already. I'll be fine, just fine. Leave everything to me. Uni thumped his chest and returned to Hattori. Alright. Pure Artemis. I returned to my room for my coat, then headed outside. Just like yesterday, it was sunny. The clear winter air was incredibly refreshing, though it's not like it came out here for air. Thought I'd check up on Natsami's condition. The door to her room was still shut and locked, and when I knocked, no reply came. That's why I decided to look through a window. I began to walk clockwise around the outside of the building. In no time, I was standing outside my target's window. I immediately noticed something odd. The window was open. Peeking into the room, I found it completely empty. Hey now, where did it go? Maybe she's in the bathroom. Discarded the idea the minute it gave me. The snow beneath the window, there were footprints that were other mine. Though rather than footprints, they were more like tracks someone had dug through the snow. The snow had risen here, and there were uneven mounds, forming a trail as though someone had crawled underneath it. I followed the trail. The trail weaved across the ground like the contours of Ria's coastline. When I thought the path was going to zig, it zagged. A rise I expected to find in one place turned up in another direction completely. In the sense, it was more like an insect trail, wandering unsteadily across the snowfield. Eventually I reached the wall. There at the end of the trail was Itsumi. She stood slightly apart from the wall, petrified like an old tree. Her back was turned to me, so I couldn't see her face. I leapt through the snow, steadily making my way over to her. I approached her from the other side. There was something like a notebook in her hand. She was absentmindedly staring at its own pages. She didn't seem to be aware of me at all. "What are you doing out here?" At the sound of my voice, her head shut up. She turned and fixed me with a sharp glare. She thrust the notebook or whatever it was behind her back. Slowly, she drew back again towards the wall. "What's that?" She didn't answer me. The eyes that stared at me were cloudy and sunken. Suddenly glanced down at her feet. She was barefoot. Blistered raw from the cold, her feet were bright red and swollen below the ankles. "Sumi-san!" I murmured pity in my voice. She continued her retreat. Her back struck the wall and her body trembled furiously in time for the pounding of her heart. Although it wasn't possible for her to retreat any further, her feet continued their backward scramble, her bare feet sliding on the white surface. Big white flecks of snow clung to them. I advanced with decisive steps. "What is it? Don't come any closer. Stay away from me." A sharp voice cut through the frozen atmosphere. The voice that had saw me turn to me was gruesome and filled. Unfazed, I continued forward, narrowing the distance between us. I grabbed hold of her arm. Strengthening my hold, I jerked her forward. "Stop it! Let me go! Let me go!" I let her continue her futile struggling as I admonished her. "Nope, I'm not letting you go. Go back to your room." "No, stop it!" As she continued to thrash about, and I tried to somehow calm her down. Something slipped from her hand and went flying. Something like a shot bird fell to the snow. Throwing off my hands, she went running over to the fallen object. Reacting immediately, I chased after her. One of her feet got caught in a snowbank and she fell forward. But even that didn't halt her movements. She was soon dragging herself through the snow on her hands and knees. I strode past her and picked up the object. It wasn't a notebook, but a file folder. Flipped it open. Oh? So that was a clear sheet protector that held several photos. The first was a baby. This was probably taken a few months after birth. The newborn baby was laughing happily in the picture. The color of its hair and skin were very similar to Itsumi's, and its eyes and nose somehow resembled Itsumi's. Is this baby's the new life Yomogi was talking about last night? I turned the page. Page after page there were pictures of the same baby. However, alone on the very last page was a boy in a red cape, a white t-shirt, shorts, and sneakers. This was probably a park behind him in the shot. Awash with brilliant sunlight, he was aiming a peace sign at the camera. A mischievous little boy with light brown skin. Could this be Junichi? Suddenly the file was snatched away from me. Isami was hunched over like an elderly woman, clutching the file to her chest. Sorrow was written plainly across her downcast face. Her mouth hung open from an escaped inhuman groan. Her silver hair disheveled, her pupils abnormally wide. Blood-red hives standing on the surface of her brown skin. It was all exactly like the way I'd seen her this morning. Her features warped and crazed, as though she'd been possessed by a demon. You're after him too, aren't you? Shinichi, you're after him. How can... He's dead, isn't he? A deep pain throbbed in my chest, as though I was being gutted, slowly torn apart. I felt as though my heart was about to break. Yusumi-san, let's go back. I was finally able to whisper. Go back? Where are you asking me to go back to? I have nowhere to go. Place to go back to, huh? That's not true, right? You still have... Yomogi-san, don't you? I'm sure he's waiting for you. The place where he is, that's the place you should return to. Right? What's that supposed to mean? You already know that he would never come back, don't you? You should already know about the crash of Flight 18. Are you sure that I should follow him? Is that what you mean? No, that's not it. To me, he's still alive now. I can't explain it very well. Definitely save him. I won't let him die no matter what. If I do, he'll still be alive a year later, so... What are you saying? Oh jeez, how do I explain it? You probably won't believe me, but... I met Yomogi 1 year ago. On Mount Akakuro. That's why I know about Junichi-kun and your baby. I heard it from him. He told me last night that the due date was in August. That means the baby would have been born last August, right? How do you know that? I told you, I heard it from Yomogi-san. Stop talking nonsense. Is there something wrong with your head? That's my line. That's my line. I don't think you're in your right here. I'm begging you, please go back to the old Itsami-san. Perfectly sane. Saying all this even when you don't know a thing. Don't toy with me. What do you know? Junichi the child was killed by Inabushi Kaiko. You only think you know the facts. That some boy was murdered, that's the extent of it. Things like what kind of child Junichi was, how we spent our daily life together. You don't know that, do you? Saying that, she suddenly began to tell her story. While fighting back the tears that threatened to overflow from her eyes fell to one of the photographs. Yomogi Junichi-kun, age at death and 9 years old. On the day of his 9th birthday, he departed the world. Mischievous, willful, always causing trouble. And yet an unusually lonely and clingy child. At night, if he ever had a bad dream, he would crawl into his mother's bed and fall asleep. As if wanting a smell, he'd press their nose against her arm. As soon as the sun rose, he'd leapt out of bed and bounced around with the energy of a kitten. He loved doing dangerous things so much that he once climbed the chimney of a public bathhouse, causing a great ruckus. All the adults gathered together trying to persuade him to come down, but he wouldn't leave the chimney. Later we found out that he frozen in fear and couldn't get down. And when dusk fell, Yomogi finally came to save him. Yomogi didn't scold his son with harsh words. He just smiled quietly, gently patted his head. Junichi-kun cried at the top of his lungs. Sobbing and wailing, even after he ran out of those tears, he cried and cried. Sorry, and over again he apologized, as he clung tightly to Yomogi's leg. He was a boy of ever-changing emotions. When he laughed, it was with his whole heart, and when he cried at the top of his lungs. He was 5 years old, the first time he was sent out on an errand. Instead of cabbage, he accidentally bought lettuce. And Itsami said, What a pity, and I was going to make cabbage rolls for dinner. When he saw the troubled expression on his mother's face, Junichi frantically tried to play dumb. But the old man at the store told me... While trying his best to make excuses, his eyes began to overflow with tears. I'm saying it's fine. Said it's fine. So I gave him the money like he told me. And I got the right change, too, see? I said it's fine, so... The old man said, so... He was probably so ashamed he couldn't bear it, so he cried. Itsumi wanted to comfort him, so he spoke to him gently. But the more she tried to comfort him, the harder he cried. He was a crybaby. Athletics was the one area where he excelled, and the training wheels came off his bike while he was still in kindergarten. Of all the neighborhood children, he was the first. He must be very pleased with that, because he showed his bicycle with love after that. One day they decided to go shopping together in the next town over. Yomogi and Itsumi had intended to go there by train, but Junichi-kun wanted to bike there no matter what and wouldn't listen. In the end, he rode there on the bike by himself while his parents took the train. On the very day there was an accident and all the trains were stopped. Having reached their destination first, he smiled proudly. He hadn't learned how to wink yet, so he squeezed both eyes shut in an attempt to look gallant. That's why I said bikes were faster. By the time he'd started elementary school, he could even ride it with no hands. Even when going downhill, even when passing a car, he wouldn't stop. Stop doing that, it's dangerous. Even after Itsumi scolded him, he continued riding like that, his face supremely unconcerned. He would ride around everywhere, over hills and dale, till nightfall, and in early spring he'd come back from the field soaked and covered in mud. When the three of them went skiing, he would ascend to the peak alone and come back down safety. Perhaps he'd inherited his love of dangerous things from his father. Itsumi thought it was charming to have a child like that. His dirty clothes could be quite troublesome to clean though. Mischievous, willful, always causing trouble, and yet an unusually lonely and clingy child. Evening came. Junichi-kun would crawl into his mother's futon and fall asleep. Yomogi was right there beside them. The three of them slept side by side, the very picture of a happy family. Sleep. In summer they slept under a single thin sheet. The wind would blow in it gently through the open screen door. The wind chime would ring. In autumn they changed to a thick blanket. The wind would begin to grow cold. Outside the fallen leaves would rustle as they tumble about. Winter came and Yomogi would disappear. In order to support the two of them, he would risk his life climbing snowy mountains. Mother and child would embrace each other, waiting for Yomogi to return. Even in the city it would begin to snow. Down and down it would come until it lay thick on the ground, and then spring would come. As soon as the sun rose, Junichi would start bouncing around. He'd come home caked in mud. Many days passed this time, then months, then years. Time passed in an instant. And then, on January 1st, 2009... Do you know how he died? His heart was such a pretty pink. His ribs were so wide and thin. Whoa, that's a little too far. His face was the only part of him left uninjured. But it was stained in bread, so I wiped it off. How do you know his face looked? Was it a peaceful and sleeping face? A sweet face at the times when he'd crawled into futon? Or was it the sad crying face he'd made back then? No, his face. It was warped in agony. It was a face of anguish as though he was burning in the deepest pits of hell. His lips were open so wide, they looked like they were about to split apart, as if he was trying to scream. Now you understand, right? I'm gonna kill her, no matter what. So stay out of our way. I won't cause you any trouble. Please. Seriously? You're going to kill her and then kill yourself, and I'm gonna get a very bad ending because of it. Saying that, she left. I couldn't call out to her to stop. The next few moments I could only stand still, unable to think. Except that I felt a chill deep within my chest as if it were frozen. My heart was crumbling. Like a marionette with its strings cut, I fell to my knees in the recently disturbed snow. And jump. Transference. Yeah. Before I noticed that a transfer had occurred, my body had changed but my heart hadn't. I felt as depressed as ever, as though I was gasping for breath at the bottom of a quagmire. I couldn't stop thinking about Itsumi, and Junichi and the baby and Yomogi. The very same Yomogi was here now, in a corner of the room. Sitting atop a bundle of firewood, he was staring intently at the palms of my hand. Palm of his hands. An axe was leaning against the wall beside him. At that point, realizing what was happening, the room looked different from last night. The table was gone, so were the chairs, the floor was covered in fine splinters, which means they chopped it all out for firewood? They'd run out of fuel? The atmosphere in the room was grave. So dark and tangible you could almost cut it with a knife. Nobody dared to open their mouth. Lynn was sitting beside her bed, her arms folded. She stared at the floorboards, furred by splinters. Uni stood at the window, looking outside. Present time, 3:57. Beyond the windows, everything was dyed a deep red. The setting sun cast a gloomy light over the room. Mingling with the aura of unrest, the light took on a bewitching color. Okay, so if I remember right, I think this point. So basically, how I'm imagining this is what do you call it? The next point he transfers is going to lead up to the point where he gets into blackout, and then Cocoro will switch in. That's when she's running away from the guy, and then she will switch out, and Satoru will kill the guy. So that would mean that this point here, I believe, is the point where he eats all the food. And then he goes, Cocoro gets blamed for it, he gets to the point where he leads up to the blackout, they switch again, Cocoro goes through the going around the building and stuff like that to avoid the killer, and they jump, but before they jump, Yomogi and everyone go outside because they see a helicopter. I'm just trying to figure out where I am in the timeline. As time passed, the shadows deepened. The night gradually crept up on us. I could almost hear its footsteps. The beating of my own heart was disturbingly loud. No time, I have no time. I could only be at the shelter cabin for 33 minutes. I took a look at Kokoro's wristwatch and saw the moment drawing nearer by the second. Spurred on by the feeling of urgency, my mind finally cleared. It's useless to keep thinking about Itsumi. Right now I needed to worry about the shelter cabin, worry about the transference phenomenon. That's right, there's still something I need to talk to Uni about. A question I kept missing my chance to ask. The important question I'd been putting off. I drew closer to where he stood, grabbed him by the shoulders and spun him around to face me. Uni!
What's wrong all of a sudden?
Something I want to ask you. Please answer me.
What?
Uni was visibly upset, overwhelmed by the forcefulness of my actions. He faltered. You. Biting off my words, I stopped and stole a glance at Yamogi and Lin. But I didn't care anymore. I didn't care if they heard me. It no longer mattered. I was running out of time. Without hesitation, I spoke. Are you the Uni from 2012?
What are you...
Quit playing dumb. You came to this world from 1 year in the future. And in your place, the Uni who should be in this world ended up in Sphere in 2012. Is that right? You know everything.
I have no idea about that.
Don't lie to me. Tell me what happened. Why did you return to Mount Cocoro in 2011? Why? What the hell are you planning? I frantically shook him, pressing him for a reply. And all of a sudden...
Ugh!
Uni screamed as though he'd gone mad. Twisting out of my grip, he broke into a run. Threw open the door of the cabin with all his might.
Wait, Uni, where are you going?
Deaf to my attempts to stop him, he dove out into the snowfield. I ran after him, plunged into the fallen snow. The sunset had dyed its surface a deep crimson. Striding across it, I ran, kicking up the snow as I went. But in spite of my efforts, it didn't look like I stood the slightest chance of catching up to him. Uni was getting away from me, springing across the frozen surface with the agility of a snow rabbit. Meanwhile, I could only trudge awkwardly through it. Of course, this is another boy's body, a woman's body. Person's body, I mean.
Uni! Uni!
I shouted towards his back, which grew even smaller to the distance. Without turning around, he burrowed up into the gentle slope of the hill. Oh. Really? Okay, so I was wrong. It's the next point that he eats the food.